welcome back to the Power Platform Show. Today we have Emma Darcy, the amazing tattooed CRM girl, on the show, talking about such a range of things, whether it's marketing, we're talking about personal brand, we're talking about particularly marketing online events and in-person events, and what kind of works and what doesn't, and her experiences in the space. This is a great little episode, well worth the listen. I hope you enjoy it. Remember, full show notes will be available on nz365guy.com/142. Now let's get on with the show. Emma, welcome to the Power Platform Show.
Hey Mark, it's good to talk to you.
Good to have you on air. We tried to do this a couple of weeks ago, and I think you're a bit poorly at the time, but you've obviously got a bit better.
Yeah, it's actually a leg injury. I managed to walk too much too quickly, and I ended up hurting my leg, so yeah. Okay,
fair enough. Now, I detect, should I say, an accent there, and of course I know because I met you. Was it Amsterdam we met about over a year ago now?
Yeah. Our first meeting was at UG Amsterdam, which is probably one of my first inductions into the craziness that is this community, to be honest. But yeah, that's right.
So, where do you originate from? And then we'll go to where do you live now?
Oh man, so I'm from Dublin, Ireland originally. And then 5 years ago, I moved to Greenville, South Carolina. And now I am based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
So why did you leave the Emerald Isle?
Same story as most love-struck women, I guess. I fell in love with an American.
Oh, did you chase a man?
Yeah, I did. I did chase a man. Yeah, it was a terrible idea, but sure, look, I'm here now.
Would you call him your man?
He was, yeah.
Because that's a very Irish saying, isn't it? What's your man? Your man.
Yeah, exactly. But your man just means like anyone.
It's anyone, right? It's your mate or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What's your other favorite Irish saying?
Oh, I think right now my favorite Irish saying is probably, oh, sure, look, it's grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when it's not.
Exactly. It's always grand.
So good. So why have you ended up in Philly now? Oh, no, Pennsylvania. Was it Pennsylvania or Philadelphia?
Philadelphia is in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Oh, there you go. I just had a history lesson.
No,
there you go. Or geography lesson. There you go.
No worries. So my sister has been up here for the last 5 years, and she came down to Greenville for Christmas back in December of last year. And my house was on the market because I was going to move just to downtown Greenville. And we were just chatting. She was like, why don't you just move to Philadelphia? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I don't have anything holding me back in Greenville, and just decided to kind of like a change of scenery. So we moved into Philadelphia proper, and we live in a converted cathedral, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's epic. Do you have like a mezzanine floor in the cathedral, so you kind of got an upstairs and downstairs?
We do, actually, yeah.
Nice.
There's a big like iron cross and everything in the kitchen.
Whoa.
And like one of the church windows is our main window that overlooks the city. It's pretty epic.
And so did you do the conversion, or was it already done?
Oh, no, we're just renting.
Gotcha. And do you have the whole building to yourself, or is there other people in there too?
It's built into apartments. So we have a nice big 2-bedroom apartment that we share with my 2 cats.
Nice. So when you're not working, and we're going to jump into what you do work-wise, what do you get up to? What's your entertainment?
Man. I obviously have cats, so they're my whole world. Just taking Instagram pictures of my cats majority of my day. And playing a lot of video games as well is what I tend to spend my time on.
Wow. What games?
So Animal Crossing just came out, and I have been literally just fishing and catching bugs and talking to animals in my neighborhood and just doing really boring, mundane things. There's a raccoon. I owe him lots of money. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Sounds like Smallsville.
A little bit, actually, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For animals.
Exactly. But you're a human, though. You're the only human in the land. It's very strange.
Very strange. So how did you get into technology?
Oh, this is a story I'm actually very, very proud of. I think it's actually really funny, and I hope a lot of people can relate. So I dropped out of college 3 times, and on my 4th attempt at college, I was paying for it and working full-time at the same time. But unfortunately, there was a bit of an incident, and I couldn't afford to pay for college anymore. So I had a 1.5 years of experience under my belt. And so I decided that I was just going to start applying for jobs in tech, didn't really know what I was going to apply for, and just see what was out there. And so I applied for this position of application specialist. Didn't really know what it was about and just thought, that looks like it could be a good job, it could be a good fit. And so I went out to the interview and I met with the two potential new bosses and we had the chat. They gave me like a logic test to do and I ran the logic test and they were like, there's no trick questions in this logic test. So I was like, okay. And so I went through it and I got the right answer and they were like, oh my God, you got the right answer. This is great. I'm like, oh, okay. It was really easy. And so
Wow.
in Ireland, our resumes tend to also contain like our hobbies and stuff. And obviously, one of mine is video games. And at the end of the interview, they were like, tell us about video games that you play. And I was like, yeah, I play some Call of Duty, I play some Mass Effect. And they were like, oh, wow, what prestige level in Call of Duty are you? I'm like, I prestige 3 times, which means you've reached like level 100 3 times. They were like, oh, that's super cool. And then we were talking about Netflix and how I like to watch American Netflix on my Xbox by changing DNS settings. And they were like, you know what the DNS is? I'm like, yeah, I know what a DNS is. And they were like, hired immediately. They couldn't find anybody else with any experience. And so I worked as an application specialist for a biotechnology company in Ireland. And that's actually where I got introduced to Dynamics. I was working originally with AX, and then I migrated over to implement a CRM platform for the company and fell completely in love with just the product as a whole.
Isn't that funny that you use that word, that you fell in love with the product? Because I've said the same thing in my career when I first, came across a product. Why do you think that is? Why do people really, I suppose, even use that phraseology when they think about Dynamics? Because at the end of the day, it's just a bit of software.
It is, but I think it's the possibility that it presents itself. I've never been able to not solve a problem with Dynamics. Sure, I've probably pulled my hair out and sworn at my computer several times while building workflows. We all have. But I've never been able to not solve a customer problem by using Dynamics. And I think it's just, there's so many reasons why it's such a great software. It's the flexibility, the ability to customize, how easy it is to learn, especially now we're going very much towards no code, low code, which means pretty much anyone can do it. And then what tops off everything by far is the community. The community is what makes this platform so great.
Yeah, yeah. So just on that, how long have you been involved in the community side of it? As I said, I met you over a year ago in Amsterdam, which was at a community event, but how long have you been working the community prior to that?
Honestly, that's when I got my start in the community. Like hardcore, actually got involved, went to events, started writing blog posts, all that kind of stuff was actually at Amsterdam. I had an amazing conversation with Keith Watling and Sarah Critchley, and both of them were like, just write a blog post, pick an idea, go for it. And from there, it'll start to flow, it'll start to build. And I've learned that I've seen people that are passionate about being involved in the community are the ones that keep it up. I've definitely seen people, start a blog post, write 2 blog posts and fall off the face of the earth. Whereas for me, I'm very passionate about contributing to the community and I absolutely love it. So I think that's probably why it's gone so well for me. But yeah, it's been a year and a bit now, which is crazy to think about actually.
Yeah, it's crazy actually, just even thinking back at that event, how many new friendships were built, connections were made at that specific Amsterdam event. Even people's careers, because you think of Flojo, Sarah Critchley's husband, he really took a total pivot in his career at that event as well and, got heavily into Power Automate. So tell me about personal brand. It seems to be something you're big on. Tattooed CRM Girl is... How often do you use it? Do you use that in gaming as well as, for Twitter and things like that?
I use it in a couple of spots now, actually. So primarily my blog is TatooedCRMGirl.com. Obviously my Twitter as well. And actually my Mixer platform is also on TatooedCRMGirl.com. I was given the name, I was blessed with this name, christened, you might say, by the wonderful Tattooed CRM guy. That might come as no surprise. But what's
Mr.
ironic...
Huntingford?
Very man. What's ironic is that 2 years ago, so a whole year prior to Amsterdam, I went to UG Summit in Dublin. And one of the product managers from ClickDimensions where I work was like, I have somebody I really want to introduce you to. I think you'll hit it off. This guy is known as Tattooed CRM Guy. And then I met Chris for the first time and he was like, oh my God, you're tattooed too? Yeah, you are now Tattooed CRM Girl. This is your name. You're going with it. And so that's how I was blessed with the name. But the brand itself is actually very, very near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. Some people may have seen my logo. It will, predominantly show that I have very large gauged ears. And there's a reason for this. The reason I like to kind of show that part of my brand is because way back in my early 20s, I still had these really big ears. I was still quite heavily tattooed. And I was always told by so many people that I had made these disastrous mistakes, that because of how I look, I would never get anywhere in my career, that
Oh my
I was
gosh.
doomed to always just work like retail jobs. Not that there's anything wrong with retail jobs. I am a huge fan of actually customer service. I love it. But I was told, I would never be successful. And I'm very much the kind of person that if you tell me something, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm very, very driven. And so I would consider myself to be successful in my career now. I love what I do. I think if you love what you do, you're successful regardless. And so that's why I use that imagery in my branding. And also, it's very handy when I go to customer events because they're like, how will I know to look for you? I'm like, girl with the big ears, you'll find me. So yeah, that's why the whole Tattooed CRM Girl brand is very, very close to my heart.
So what advice do you give people that are considering, getting involved in the community, building their own personal brand? What steps do you feel they need to take to establish really a global personal brand? Because you're now well known all over the world.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the following's growing. So give me like 5 steps or something that you'd recommend they would take.
Yeah, sure. I actually get asked this quite a bit. I think one of the key points is to take something that's unique about yourself and kind of build your whole brand around that. So for myself, obviously, got big ears and tattoos. That's where that comes from. But you also have like the CRM Ninja. He drives ninja bikes, and that's like his whole logo is green, and he's really into that. And like you've also got Sarah Critchley, who's the dynamic CRM cat because she really likes cats. So picking something that's unique to yourself is definitely the first step. But also, you can't just have like a color or a logo. There's got to be a specific personality behind your brand. You've got to just be yourself. And I think I've heard this said so many times by so many other people, and I can't stress it enough, is don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to mimic somebody else's brand. Be yourself because it's enough.
Yeah, yeah. And so how much does creating content play into your personal brand?
A huge amount, actually, because a lot of my blog posts will always start off with a GIF or a meme or something, because I like to bring in my personality to a lot of what I write. And I also tend to write it very much in like a journalistic way. It's very much a personal blog. But I think a huge part of where I've kind of taken some new steps with my branding is the Dunder Mifflin live streaming project that I've been doing, which is where I also am Tattooed CRM Girl on Mixer.com. And most people will know what Twitch is or what YouTube Live is or any of these streaming platforms, which I know you stream on YouTube.
Yeah.
The Mixer.com platform is primarily a gaming platform, but it's Microsoft's platform and it's highly interactive. So I figured, we work for a Microsoft product. I kind of want to tie that whole unity in and just use the Mixer.com platform. And so what I've been doing is I've been taking business applications concepts and applying them to Dunder Mifflin, which if people don't know what Dunder Mifflin is, it's the fictional office from the US sitcom called The Office. And our whole idea is to basically show that blog posts that you see out there, videos that you see out there from the community, they're usually very polished and a lot of research has gone into them prior to it being, given out to the community to consume. I want to show people that by live streaming these processes, and I do everything live, there's no pre-planning. I mean, we'll plan, hey, let's build a dashboard for Pam to help her manage Michael's antics. We'll do that kind of planning. But in the actual live stream itself, we like to actually show, well, if we want to build a dashboard, we need to do the views first, we need to get the data first, and we'll do all that in real time, completely live with some input from the community. And it just
Awesome.
shows people that, you have to start somewhere. This content doesn't just come out of thin air. It's polished and there's research into it. And I want to show that process.
So is it just you that is live streaming there around Dunder Mifflin, or is there more than one of you? How are you, riffing off each other and building out and adding commentary? I've not seen the show. Kind of tell me a couple of the highlights that have happened in the show.
Yeah, sure thing. So I primarily actually do it with a very good friend and colleague of mine, Mallory Lawhorn. She is a huge fan of The Office. She will tell you Parks and Rec is better. She's lying. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But basically, she's usually on there with me and we bounce ideas off each other. We're both on a very similar wavelength. We both have cats. We both like hockey. We're pretty similar people. And so the whole idea is that I will start the stream and Mallory will come on with me and we'll talk a little bit about what we're planning on that day. And I think some of the highlights are, we literally just started this. We've started with like Azure boards, mapping out the different projects we want to implement.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is a whole new experience for me because she is a project manager and has done that in the past, whereas I've never been a project manager. So I'm learning from scratch, what sprints are, what planning looks like, what you have to do before you can get to the next step. All that kind of stuff is very new to me. So we've been planning out a lot of that. But some of the projects we're super excited about is the current one we're working is a dashboard for Pam to basically report back to Jan in the office and say, hey, Michael took a nap at this time. Michael did a ridiculous thing at this time. Jim put a stapler in a Jell-O here, and kind of like build out all these different business processes based on the whole show of The Office, it's been
I love it.
Really fun. Yeah, it's been really, really fun.
I love it. Where can people tune in?
So if you go to mixer.com/TatooedCRMGirl, I do also have a YouTube. I'm not very good at polishing any of my videos. They're very raw, but you can watch the recordings of the streams at youtube.com/TatooedCRMGirl. Branding.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. What I'd love to do is just drill in a bit to the live streaming tech you've got running and just be, with the world events as what they are at the moment, I think other people might be interested in jumping on and setting up, getting the kit and stuff to set up and live stream. Kind of what tech are you using? What do you recommend? And how do they go about, maybe starting live streaming themselves around the Power Platform or Dynamics 365?
I would absolutely love to see more live streams, like doing what I do, just, hardcore. Here's what I'm going to do today. My setup is very basic. I haven't really put a ton of money into this. I just bought myself a little camera that pops on top of my monitor. Second screen is absolutely vital in this case. And just make sure that you have a pretty clear background. You would need to set up things like what are called scenes. So, a little scene to display before you start live streaming.
What software are you using to live stream? Yeah.
Just using OBS. So
OBS, which is Open Broadcasting OBS system, is it?
I guess.
I think that's what's OBS. There's another one called Slob, which is Streamlabs, right? Is that right? Streamlabs OBS?
OBS is Streamlabs, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is? No, there's two different versions of it though, right? Are you on the green version or the more black and white version?
I'm on the green version. So Streamlabs OBS is what I run.
Okay, so Streamlabs OBS is different than actual OBS. OBS is the original code base, and Streamlabs is, to my understanding, a port of it. And
gotcha.
Yeah. Streamlabs is kind of like, I feel, more simple to use. It's got a lot more bells and whistles in.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the software on your computer. So you've got a camera. What are you doing for a microphone?
I'm literally just using this old headset that I've been using for literally 10 years.
Nice.
I probably should upgrade.
It works,
Exactly. It's literally 10 years old. I stole it from my job when I was in Ireland. I'm really sorry, guys. I was supposed to return it, but I didn't. But it's a wireless Logitech headset, and I love wireless. They seem to be really hard to come across these days. So that's it.
Very cool, very cool. So then you've got OBS on the desktop, which is free to download. You can go to Streamlabs OBS, download it, no cost for that. Now tell us about what you got to do on, is it Mixer, did you say? you're
Yep.
using? Yeah, Mixer.
It
What are you
is
going to do there? Does that
super
cost money?
simple. Nope, it's completely free and it's super
Mm-hmm.
simple. Mixer.com has actually their own like step-by-step guides on how to tie the two platforms together. And if I can do it, literally anyone can do it, honestly. I did have to YouTube how to like set up Spotify to play some music in the background. That was the only
Nice.
thing I had to YouTube, but everything else was step-by-step. Click here, type this, click here. Very, very
And
easy.
have you not had some copyright claims with you on YouTube for having Spotify in the background?
Oh yeah, I just ignore them.
I love it. I love it. Oh, yeah, who cares? Oh.
He wants to watch my streams in the Netherlands anyway. It's fine.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so listen, if anyone's keen to get a live stream going, that's how simple it is. All the software's free, pretty much camera, microphone, and you're good to go. And of course, coming up with a great topic, which can be anything that you're interested in. There's bound to be other people around the world interested. Now, do you stream at a set time each week, or do you just kind of announce on Twitter, hey, we're going live, blah, blah, blah?
I need to get better at actually having a set cadence for when I stream. I'm working on it, but I just moved 4 weeks ago to Philadelphia, so it's been a bit hectic.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously current
sense.
events make things really hectic, but I'm planning on getting into a more streamlined flow of things for sure.
Nice, nice. Let's change gears and talk about marketing. Is that your Jedi skills at the moment from a career perspective? How did you get involved with ClickDimensions, and how have you gone down this? I know that at one point you were working with a mate of mine, Mr. Matt Whitterman, or better known as Matt fucking Whitterman, but I digress. Tell us, how did you get into Click, and what's the big deal about marketing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I moved to the US the first time, I finally got my visa and I started looking around for jobs, and this job for ClickDimensions came up because they actually have a little local office in Greenville, South Carolina, of all the places. It was pretty great. And so I obviously met with people in the office. I actually did an interview with Matt Whitterman first off, which was amazing. I didn't realize how much of a big deal he was at the time. I probably would have brushed my hair if I'd have known. And I really enjoyed all the people I met with. And for me, culture is key. You can pay me $1 million to work in the worst place ever, and I won't take it. Culture is the most important thing to me. And I met everyone. Everyone seemed really cool. And of course, with my background in dynamics already being pretty strong, it was a bit of a no-brainer. So it's been 3 years now at ClickDimensions, and I have literally loved every single day. I feel so blessed and so lucky to have a job where people are very respectful and very encouraging of each other, and also to have a CEO that's just knows me by name and knows who I am and knows each and every single individual person at our company and actually genuinely cares about us. It's fantastic. I just feel so, so lucky. Getting choked up. I love it. I just love them so much. I really do.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Marketing is new to me. So, it's 3 years new to me. So I didn't have any experience in marketing at all. Like a lot of people tend to have like degrees in business and things like that and tend to have some sort of an idea. But for me, I've pretty much learned everything on the job, especially since I've been doing marketing for community events recently. And definitely been learning as I go for sure. I have a significant amount more respect for marketers because I think people think they're like these creative types that are like, oh, let's put a puppy in an advertisement and it will be so cute. It's actually a significant amount that goes into marketing that I didn't realize until I actually started marketing for some of these events.
Yeah. So specifically around event marketing, what's the key things people, in your experience, need to get right to nail and put on a good event from a marketing? So really, you're looking at T-minus 30 to T-minus 40, all the stuff that must happen pre that event. And of course, I assume there's some marketing activities that follow on post an event as well. What do you see as the right mix of all these things?
So it depends on whether you're doing an in-person event or an online event, because there's two very different requirements for those. So for in-person event, obviously with the Scottish Summit that I recently did the work for, I'm actually doing a blog post right now on things that I learned, things that I would do differently now that I have done the whole thing. But I've learned that putting a plan in place and sticking to the plan is really, really important. The marketing for Scottish Summit wasn't really very planned. It was pretty much Mark Christie being like, hey, Emma, can you send an email on Wednesday that has this content? And it would be like Thursday or Tuesday night and he'd be sending me this. But yeah, we didn't really have a very set plan. And honestly, I'm working full time, he's working full time and planning this massive event. So time was definitely limited. But I would 100% say make sure that you have a marketing calendar in place. Make sure you can see all the different days where you are sending out your emails, sending out your social content, sending out SMS messaging. Also, another key point in marketing that people tend to forget about. Making sure that your emails are very clear and concise. So with events, there's a lot going on. So you think about marketing for the likes of UG Summit or Scottish Summit, where you're running multiple different kinds of sessions. And then there's the pre-sessions, and then there's the hackathons, and then there's, the admins in a day. All of that stuff needs to be planned for. And as consumers, there's only so much that we can take in one email. So for me, one of the challenges were I had to market out these 3 different training sessions that 3 different MVPs were running separate to Scottish Summit, just as a tag on. And they wanted the emails to be very detailed about what events they were running. And I was trying to explain, hey guys, I know where you're coming from, but from a consumer perspective, I'm not reading an email that has 4 paragraphs about what your session is. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, keeping the MVPs in check was part of the challenge for sure. But honestly, keeping speakers in check was its own beast as well. While technically doesn't fall under marketing, it did fall under my set of skills because we also use ClickDimensions to manage our speakers. So ensuring people filled out forms, telling us what polo sizes they needed, if they needed to come to a dinner, and basically just making sure everybody was giving us correct data, because we all know that speakers can be complete divas if they're not happy. So that was another side to it. And then, of course, communication was really, really important. If I were to do the Scottish Summit event again, I would ensure that I had a regular meeting with Ian and Mark. That was like every week. Hey, this is the comms that are going out this week. Do we need to adjust? All that kind of thing we didn't do. It was pretty much, WhatsApp text messages at 9 or 10 at night for them guys being like, hey, what are we doing this week? So definitely learned a lot from marketing that event. I think definitely keeping it personable, making sure the emails are kind of fun. I think I did a speaker email for everyone that hadn't filled out the speaker form. And it had like the Simpsons, the Scottish guy from the Simpsons, Willie, is that his name? Yeah, and it was like really angry Willie. And it was like, if you don't fill in this form, Willie's going to come get you. It was really fun. So yeah, I'm enjoying the fun aspect of marketing, but I'm also learning a ton about, the analytics that comes out of it, conversions. One of my favorite statistics about running this event was that 7 out of 10 registrants for an additional activity came from ClickDimensions emails directly. And
wow, that's incredible.
That blew my mind because I was like, I didn't realize, obviously I know email marketing is really powerful, but I didn't realize how powerful until I saw those statistics. So yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. Earlier this year, my time's getting mixed up. Perhaps it was the tail end of last year in London. It was actually, I was on my run. I was listening to a podcast and it said the latest tech in marketing is email. And of course, it was kind of like, what are you talking about? It's been around for years. And they're like going, well, here's the thing, right? Facebook now, in the way they do advertising, Google in the way they do advertising, anybody in the way they're doing advertising, Twitter, etc., all do it based on what's going to get the click through on that target audience. So it doesn't matter how popular you are on those platforms. It doesn't mean, even if people like take YouTube, for example, I have a bunch of subscribers on my YouTube channel, but unless they've chosen to hit the bell, they won't get notified every time I create something new. On LinkedIn, I might create a post and I've got a range of followers. People are not going to see that necessarily unless the algorithms on these platforms decide that they're going to get the click-through from that audience engagement, right, that they presented up to. Email is the only platform out there, and probably SMS as well in it, that you actually own the journey from start to finish, as in, because you have the email address, you have that communication point, nobody gets to decide based on algorithm, as long as you haven't written a spammy email and it's not spammy by nature, it should get delivered, and it's a one-to-one type connection, even though it might, be mass distributed. So the whole premise of this guy's podcast was like, you wouldn't believe how important, more than ever it is, to have good, clean email lists, and the power of email is still just as strong as what it's been in the past. You have
Oh,
to be more probably
100%.
articulate, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
interesting. Tell me, you talked about, marketing the Scottish Summit, which was definitely an in-person event.
Yes.
A lot of people will be going, how do I switch at the moment to running events that are online? In fact, who knows
Yes.
if the world's ever going to be the same after, what we're all going through at the moment. And I think that, that online events are going to become a big deal. And I think we're going to see a massive evolution in the way software is going. How do you think marketing, particularly even from ClickDimensions' point of view, will that play in the new, online conference type world or online event world?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. It's something that I'm actually addressing in blog posts upcoming as well. I have some experience with running some online live chats, kind of where, community get together and have conversations. And the difference between an in-person event and an online event is pretty much ensuring that your attendees are aware of the event and its start time. So ensuring that you provide a correct and clear link to where the event is going to be hosted, providing reminder emails, which I would do for in-person as well, but I think it's very important for online, but specifically adding like an iCal or an ICS file to your response
Gotcha.
email. So, I live and die by my calendar like most of us consultants do. Having that on my calendar allows me to go, okay, cool, I've got that event at 5 o'clock tonight. I'll remember to, cut off at 4:30, have some time to
Yeah.
decompress. So I think that's a really key point, is just clear, obviously always clear messaging, always clear call to action buttons, but you need to make sure that obviously you have the correct software in place to host your online conference. And obviously there's multiple different options for that too. From a ClickDimensions perspective, we do have some integrations with the likes of GoToMeeting, but I've also recently used Power Automate to generate some event participation records in Dynamics and keep track of those. But also, what's really nice as we move towards more digital events is having a list of people that actually attended and then being able to use that as a marketing tool. So maybe even surveying your attendees, seeing what they liked, what they didn't like, and then being able to market to those attendees, provided you're being GDPR compliant. Got to just pop that in there to kind of continue developing that relationship with attendees.
Yeah, I think you're on the money, particularly with that ICS file, because, even recently I've had join the online meeting and it's just a URL to the online meeting, and they might say, it's 8 a.m., Pacific Standard Time. Well, over half the audience are not in America that are going to be joining that. And the beauty of an ICS file, right, as a rule, it updates to your time zone automatically or pops it in the right point. So I totally agree the importance of getting that if you're going to get the right people on air. In
Yeah.
saying that, I don't ever put ICS files out for my live stream, so perhaps it's something I should be doing.
I have created my own ICS file for your live stream.
Oh, no way. Can you share it with me?
I
And
can.
we start using it. I mean, I think it's a great idea. Tell me about community, right? So you've mentioned Scottish Summit, but I know
Yes.
Power Apps Philly and Power Apps Boston you've had a bunch to do with.
Yes.
Tell me about your community journey, particularly in the last 12 months.
Oh my goodness, it has been the most insane, wonderful journey ever. I am extremely passionate about everybody in this community, and I have a very deep and sincere love for everyone. I always get really choked up when I talk about them. But for me, community is huge because there's so many different people with so many different backgrounds, and literally everyone is welcome. Like, there's never like, oh, you're not part of the Dynamics crew. Oh, you're not welcome here. And there's a huge example of that at Scottish Summit where Eldert was there with his wife Angelique, and Angelique is not part of the Dynamics community at all. She was just attending because he was going to be in Scotland. The community were like, we don't care, come hang out with us, we'll teach you some things, we'll have some drinks, we'll have a good time. It's just the power of how inclusive everyone is, regardless of your background, your color, your race, your gender, everything. Nobody cares. We're just there for you as a person. For me, the best things about the community are how we have stories, like stories from Samit and stories from Keith that, where they came from, what people would call maybe humble backgrounds. Keith was a bus driver and Samit worked at Heathrow. And just hearing how they picked up Power Apps just out of nowhere to develop and blossom this amazing career, just it blows my mind every single time. And just knowing that you've got a bunch of people out there who's got your back, regardless of what's going on, if it's your personal life, business life, if you have a question about Power Automate, for example, I know 7 people I could go to immediately for that answer. And there's no like, oh, you're bothering me with this question. It's very much, I want to help. For example, today, Megan Walker came to me with a ClickDimensions question, and I love to help people. So, I don't mind answering those questions. I know that if I have a Forms Pro question, I'll go to her tomorrow and she'll be the same way. So that's probably one of the big things I love.
I like it. What about user groups? I take it you're doing user groups,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Right now, a lot of user groups are shutting down around the world because we can't meet in person. And I feel it's an opportunity to make a pivot and really get user groups running virtually. They'll be massively inclusive because a lot of people, can't attend. Maybe they have to look after their children in the evenings or lunch or whatever, but they've not been able to attend user groups. And now we're opening up really this whole inclusive area with online, to make it possible. Yes. What are kind of tips that you would give to people, or how would you go about running user groups in an online world now?
So actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm running the North Carolina chapter user group this Friday completely online. And in many ways, it actually is easier for me because I don't have to go through the hassle of finding a location, getting in catering. And the cool thing is I can now have speakers from all over the world come and speak at our user group. So for Friday, I've got Michael Roth coming in. He's based in Cologne in Germany, and he's going to talk about user adoption in teens, which I think is a very critical topic for us right now. And if I was to do my user group in location in North Carolina, there's no way he'd be able to come to something like that. So it's an opportunity. I don't see it as a roadblock. Of course, I love being with people in person, but you know what? This brings us a whole new set of opportunities, like having more people attend. It's easier for people to attend. I can record the session. I can have people from all over the world come and speak at the sessions. Likewise, I'm going to be speaking at a user group. I want to say it's the Birmingham one. I don't know. It's one of them in England. There's like 1 million of them in England. I'm getting that opportunity to meet with those users as well. So it's huge. I think if I were to give tips for it, it would be to just go and do it. If you are struggling with what kind of software to use, talk to other people in the community. The Dynamics communities actually has a full document on advice on how to set up online communities as well. So
So I noticed, and I only just found this out recently, in Microsoft Teams, you can set, rather than scheduling a meeting, you can schedule a live event.
I noticed that.
Which is designed, I feel, specifically, you can put some of the details in there. I've just got it up on screen, specify the title, location, of course, when the time is, and then the whole details of it. And of course, it provides a public, my understanding, link that people can use to join that meeting. And I just heard, once again, just like you said before, it pays to have 2 screens. You really want to have a moderator. So if you're the speaker, somebody else is managing the software. And I just think, once again, great opportunity that pretty much at the moment Teams is free, right? That Microsoft are giving it away. There's no reason to crank in there, get it set up, and as I say, bring in guest speakers from all around the world to that event. And just everyone really needs to BYO, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just, get on with it and get it done. You don't know how it's going to go unless you give it a go.
So Emma, another thing, how do you coach new and existing speakers in your user group? How do you encourage people that, might never have spoken before, right? And they can contribute. And I mean, we've talked about it's great to get guest speakers from all over the world, but also there's the word that comes to me is like an obligation to make sure your local community from a user group is growing and got a platform to find their voice and speak on their topics and that type of thing. And I feel local user groups is such a great, safe way to do that. How do you mentor and coach those new speakers to get involved?
So that's actually quite applicable to somebody who's kind of emerging in our community right now. I'm really excited for her, Mary Thompson. She's actually based on our North Carolina user group.
I know
as
her.
Well. Oh, she's amazing. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
When I first met Mary, she did a hackathon with me, a virtual hackathon when we did the Global Hack for Good back in June of last year. And I found out she was based in South Carolina, which is where I was. And I invited her to come to our user group in North Carolina to speak. And she was really nervous about it. But I was like, everyone has a story to tell. Everybody has something that somebody else wants to listen to. Your first speaking session is terrifying. My first speaking session was at D365 Amsterdam, where 2 people showed up. So I've been there. I know what it's like to kind of start out talking. But I think once you do your first one, you're like, that wasn't too bad. People weren't horrible. I actually know a couple things. I helped, 2 people came to my session. They walked away, learned something new. That's all that matters. So helping people to realize that you actually do know a lot more than you think you know. And when you're up there giving a talk, people are just grateful for you to teach them something new. So I've seen her really grow over the last couple of months for sure. And it's really, really exciting what she's doing.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Awesome. Okay. Tell us about exams. Do you know from social media, etc., you're on exams, you're doing a range of exams. What are you up to at the moment and how are you prepping for the various exams?
Yeah, so I've taken MB200 and MB600 and I'm planning on MB210 next, hopefully, if I can get around to doing it. My history with the MB200 exam is actually significantly different to the last set of exams, the 700 series. This time round, for me, it was significantly more terrifying. And the reason for that is because I'm going to go a little bit into imposter syndrome because it plays a huge part of it. For me, now that I've got a bit of a presence in the community, I know some people, the fear of failing the MB200 exam was so real for me that I rescheduled my exam 8 times.
8 times?
Yep, I could show you the screenshot 8 times. And what's ironic is that it ended up costing me more in reschedule fees than the cost of the exam. And all because I was so terrified of failing. I felt like if I failed, the community would think I was a complete fraud, that my colleagues would think that I don't know what I'm talking about. Complete imposter syndrome fear. And so what happened was I was moving to Philadelphia and I had no choice. I had to take the exam. And so I decided not to think too much about it. And Sarah Critchley, I love that girl so much. She told me that if you fail it, at least you'll know what you need to work on. And she was completely right. So I went into it with that mentality. I did a cram session. Julian Sharp had done a session on passing MB200 and just topics to hit. So I did a cram session 2 nights before, and I went into the exam, and I actually ended up getting like 875, which is really high. So I feel like imposter syndrome significantly held me back from taking the exam. And if there's anybody out there who feels the same way, I can tell you several people in the community that are really well known that failed their exam. But that doesn't mean anything. I still highly respect them. They still know what they're talking about. These exams are very, very difficult and they can be mentally draining. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. The MB600 exam is obviously a little bit different because it's in beta. That one I didn't care about at all. I went in, no research, and just took the exam and was like, that was terrible. So, I mean, anyone who's taken the MB600 beta will agree that it is a terrible exam, but we'll see what happens. If I pass, that will be a miracle. But, I'm not putting as much weight behind these exams as I used to, for sure. I know what I'm talking about. I'm very comfortable. My imposter syndrome is still very much ingrained, but it's definitely getting better the more seasoned I am in my career, for sure.
So on that subject, interesting, and it's the first time I've said something like this, is that my second to last exam that I took, I totally failed it. And I've been in the community, and it was on Dynamics, and I've been in the community for years and years, and I've been involved in writing many of the exam questions, and I failed it. I resat it and passed it, but it does happen. And the thing is that in recent times, I think exams is getting a lot of press and a lot of play, but it's, at the end of the day, a lot of them has to do with how well you remember stuff, not necessarily whether you're strongly skilled in a particular area. I think there's been almost an over-indexing on the importance of exams, and I'm like, hey, if you don't have experience and credibility in the industry, you need exams because that's your stepping stone to getting, credibility and stuff. But yeah, I would do the same as yours. Recommend go out, sit the exam. If you fail it, c'est la vie, have another go. You'll definitely know what's in it, right? And you'll get a feel for it. and next time, you might do better. But yeah, good on you. Good on you for finally getting through it, and also being able to tell others that, hey, it's not a big a deal and you don't need to be held back.
And thank you for sharing that you failed. I feel like, we need to be more open about these things. I think it really helps with imposter syndrome. Based on my session in Scottish Summit, it's clearly a huge issue. I want to say issue, but it's a huge topic in the community. And I definitely want people to realize, you're not alone. Something someone told me during my session in Scottish Summit really stuck with me was, don't compare your start to somebody else's beginning or somebody else's middle.
Yeah.
That really, really struck me pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say to people, they're like, oh, you're a great podcaster and stuff like that. And I'm in year 3 of podcasting with a year of doing 2 podcasts a week under my belt. And I'm like, yeah, but don't compare that. Go and have a look at podcast number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly.
And probably even up to 10. They were pretty shit.
Yeah.
The audio sucked. I didn't know what I was doing. I fumbled my questions. But the thing is that, as I say, practice makes perfect, and you get better with time. And you learn, even from live streaming, we started that just to learn, knowing that we're not going to be good on day 1.
Oh, yeah.
But you're never going to get to day 50 or day 100 if you don't start on day 1.
Exactly. That's 100%. And I think for me, when I started in the community, it was very intimidating because there's all these people that know all these great things. But, a year on, I've learned that they all had to start somewhere too. And I'm a year in now as well. So I'm definitely a lot more comfortable. But yeah, definitely never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle.
I love it. Okay, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Oh, God. Let's go.
The first one's going to be real easy. And this is not one that I ask everybody.
Yes.
Which is, what's your favorite tattoo that you have?
Oh my God, that's really difficult. I have so many.
You can only pick one.
My favorite one, it's actually community related. It's very sweet.
Wow.
So I like to get tattooed in cities that I speak in. And so I have a little Amsterdam tattoo. You probably remember this from Amsterdam UG. It's like a little bicycle on a canal and a heart, and it's on my leg. And I got it tattooed right before I went to give a talk at Extreme. And I'd taken some hydrocodone right before I got tattooed. So I came back and did my talk, and I was very happy about it. That's probably my favorite.
I love it. What's your next tattoo?
Actually, it's another community tattoo. I'm booked in to get the Microsoft Ninja Cat on the T-Rex tattooed next.
Okay, yeah.
With the little Windows logo. I'm really excited about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get on to some additional questions, which are totally random. What's something you disagree with about the way you were raised?
Ooh,
that's deep.
That is really deep. Can I pass?
Excellent. That's fine. If you could buy your dream house, what is the one weird room or feature you would have in it?
I would have a cat room, a room where my cats can just play and have shelving and just a really, really fancy, nice cat room. Yeah.
Would you have an area that they could walk along ramps all up around the walls and high and low and tunnels? And, I think that would be cool.
Absolutely. My cats are spoiled rotten. So yeah, they had that in my house in South Carolina. They had all the different shells and the fancy cat trees and all that. So yeah, 100%
nice.
I'd have a cat room. Yeah.
Nice. Would you rather hear good news or bad news first?
Bad news first.
What's the last thing you bought for under $50 that you love and use often?
Under $50? Oh, that's a really good question. Was my Animal Crossing technically was right under $50 at $49.99, so that counts, right?
That counts. That counts.
Animal Crossing, the new video game that came out on Friday, is my absolute favorite thing right now.
Love it. What's something you believe earlier in your career, but you think differently about it now?
I believed that appearances mattered when it comes to your career. I think we talked about that a little bit today. So I put a lot of stock in, wearing suits and making sure my arms were covered and all that kind of thing. But now, as we mentioned, it's become my entire business brand. So I definitely think that you should look presentable. Obviously, don't come to a business client meeting with unbrushed hair and shorts and flip-flops. But I don't care too much what people think about my tattoos and my ears and all that.
Yeah, I love it. What's the best date you've ever been on?
Best date?
Yeah, the best date.
Oh
it sticks in your mind as an amazing date. You don't have to give me details of who was there.
It's okay. It was literally last Saturday. It's so ironic.
Wow. Awesome,
It was,
awesome.
coffee and sushi, and then we found a bowling ball in the alleyway in the back of my apartment, and we set up some cans and played alleyway bowling outside a brewery, and then went to like a community fire pit. This is before social distancing was required. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're recording this in December 2019, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, that's so cool. Emma, who do you recommend as a guest on the show in the future?
Mary Thompson, definitely. I think she's doing some good
Mary
things.
Thompson, wow.
Yeah. I think she's doing some really good things, and I'm excited
love
to
it.
see where she's going to go next.
Sounds awesome. Emma, it's been awesome to have you on the show. Where can they kind of find out everything that you're doing in the social arena?
Definitely Twitter. I mean, if you're in the community and you're not on Twitter, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So twitter.com/TatooedCRMGirl. I'm also primarily on my blog a lot. That's where you're going to see the work that I've actually done in the past is going to be on TatooedCRMGirl.com. And Mixer as well. Check out Mixer, mixer.com/TatooedCRMGirl. I will be there.
Hey, thanks again for joining me today on the Power Platform Show. I hope you're staying safe out there. Remember, full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/142. I'm your host, Business Applications MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as NZ365 Guy. If you've not had a chance to do a review on iTunes, I would love it if you would. I'm like 3 reviews away from, I think, having my reviews actually show up on iTunes. So if you want to go over to YouTube. If you want to go over to nz365guy.com/iTunes, I'll redirect you to the place that you can leave a review for the show. I would massively appreciate it. All of those that are you at home in self-isolation or enforced isolation like myself, I hope that you're staying safe and you're keeping your spirits up, because this too will pass. Bye for now.